something isn't adding up anymore, especially when it comes to the highly anticipated, incredibly toxic showdown involving Jacinda, Willow, and Michael. If you ask me, we are standing on the precipice of a massive departure, and the fallout from this impending explosion is going to leave several of our favorite characters completely devastated, questioning everything they thought they knew. For weeks, the whispers have been growing louder and the hints have been dropping that Jacinda is playing a very dangerous, high-stakes game, one that could backfire in catastrophic, life-altering ways. We all know she has her sights firmly set on destroying Willow, and the stakes could not possibly be any higher with the vicious custody battle over the children looming over everyone's heads like a dark storm cloud. But what if I told you that the intricate trap Jacinda thinks she is setting is actually a trap that has been brilliantly, maliciously set for her? The bigger question is not whether Jacinda will succeed in her plot, but rather how spectacular and deeply humiliating her impending downfall will be when the dust finally settles. It may not be a coincidence that the pieces on the board are shifting so drastically just as new faces arrive in town to shake up the status quo. We may be looking at a scenario where Jacinda is either run out of Port Charles, completely disgraced, stripped of her dignity and her allies, or forced to flee into the night after a criminal plot spirals completely out of her control. The tension in every single scene is palpable, and every calculated move these characters make right now feels like a deliberate step toward a massive, town-shaking explosion that will alter the fabric of their lives forever. Let's talk about the specific clue that changes the entire trajectory of this storyline and flips the script on everything we expected. The spoilers and recent hints have heavily suggested that Jacinda is actively preparing to drug Willow. On the surface, this looks like a desperate, aggressive, and highly illegal move to create a compromising situation. The ultimate goal? To hand Michael the ultimate advantage in this vicious custody war. Jacinda wants to paint Willow as an unfit mother, someone who is mentally unstable, struggling with addiction, and entirely dangerous to her own children. A failed drug test would instantly terminate Willow's custody rights, handing Michael a flawless victory. But that's where things become interesting. Something feels off about this entire setup. Jacinda's plan is almost too obvious, too reckless for someone going up against a woman who has recently secured a highly coveted seat on the hospital board and has been ruthlessly dealing with heavy hitters like Tracy Quartermaine, Jack Brennan, and Drew Kane. Willow is not a passive, helpless victim who just waits for the axe to fall. She is a master tactician, a woman who knows exactly how to play the angles and manipulate the narrative to suit her own ambitious survival instincts. The clue isn't just the drugging attempt itself. It is Willow's uncharacteristically quiet, almost observant reaction to the looming threat that Jacinda poses. If you ask me, Willow already knows exactly what Jacinda is planning, or at the very least, she is anticipating a dirty, underhanded move from Michael's camp. The real clue lies in the sudden, perfectly timed arrival of Serena Baldwin. Serena has just returned to Port Charles to help her adopted mother, Lucy Coe, in a vicious corporate power struggle at Deception against Brooklyn and Tracy. She is fresh, she is eager to prove herself, and most importantly, she is completely ignorant of the dark, twisted history that binds Michael, Willow, and Jacinda together. That ignorance is a highly effective weapon, and Willow is exactly the kind of person to wield it with devastating precision. Now, let's start connecting the dots to see the terrifying picture they form. If Jacinda's plot to drug Willow is real, it explains perfectly why Willow desperately needs a credible, unbiased witness to validate her victimization. If this detail is true, it could explain a lot about why Willow might intentionally allow herself to be vulnerable, or at least appear vulnerable, in the presence of someone like Serena. Serena is a legacy character with a strong moral compass, but she has been away from the Port Charles drama for a long time. She doesn't know the absolute monster that Willow can be when she is backed into a corner and fighting for her survival. This makes Jacinda's aggressive strategy incredibly suspicious and deeply flawed. If Jacinda moves forward with the drugging plot, she is walking blindly into a narrative that Willow is already writing and directing. Imagine the scene. Serena, trying to navigate her new stressful life at Deception, suddenly stumbles upon a seemingly helpless, victimized, and terrified Willow. The dots connect perfectly when you realize that Serena's utter lack of context makes her the ultimate unwitting pawn. Willow doesn't just want to beat Jacinda in a minor skirmish. She wants to destroy her credibility completely and permanently erase her from the board. Every single interaction between these characters starts to look like a carefully choreographed, highly manipulative dance. If Serena sees Jacinda acting aggressively, and then sees Willow suffering the effects of whatever Jacinda planned, the narrative is instantly, permanently set in Serena's mind. Jacinda becomes the undisputed villain, the wicked aggressor, and Willow becomes the tragic, misunderstood heroine fighting for her family. It may not be a coincidence that Serena is being positioned so closely to this specific drama while she is already dealing with corporate espionage. The writers are placing a loaded gun on the table, and Willow's fingerprints are going to be all over the trigger, even if Serena is the one who ultimately fires the fatal shot. This brings us to the massive theory that could blow the roof off of General Hospital in the coming weeks. There may be more to the story than a simple rivalry over Michael. What if Willow is about to orchestrate the most flawless, psychologically manipulative performance of her entire life? I firmly believe that Willow is going to approach Serena with tears streaming down her face, her hands trembling as she holds a cup of coffee, playing the role of the broken, betrayed wife to absolute perfection. She is going to spin a web of lies so thick, so emotionally compelling, that Serena won't be able to see the truth, even if it is staring her right in the face. The big reveal is that Willow will convince Serena that Jacinda is a ruthless, home-wrecking predator who destroyed her life for sport. Willow will paint Michael as the ultimate betrayer, a wealthy, entitled husband who shattered their family by having a sordid, ongoing affair with Jacinda. Because Serena doesn't know the complex, often toxic, and highly nuanced history of Michael and Willow's marriage, she will swallow this fabricated story whole. Serena will look at the weeping Willow and see a desperate mother fighting for her life and her children against a cruel, calculating mistress and an abusive billionaire ex-husband. This is the emotional core of the entire theory and the absolute peak of Willow's dark evolution. Willow is going to deliberately weaponize Serena's natural empathy and strong sense of justice. By making Serena believe that Jacinda ruined her life and stole her husband, Willow creates a fiercely loyal, fiercely protective ally who will stop at nothing to help her seek justice. When Jacinda's drugging plot inevitably goes sideways, or when Willow masterfully turns the tables to make it look like an unprovoked, lethal attack on a helpless mother, Serena will be the star witness. Serena and Willow will form an unstoppable, devastating alliance, pointing the finger directly at Jacinda, ensuring she is arrested by the PCPD, prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and ultimately driven out of Port Charles in absolute, irredeemable disgrace. But if this theory is true, we have to look at the devastating aftermath that will follow in the wake of Jacinda's destruction. Who really loses here? Yes, Jacinda will lose everything she holds dear. She will be the immediate casualty, her reputation completely destroyed, her freedom potentially stripped away as the authorities close in on her botched drugging attempt. She will be forced to leave town, a defeated, humiliated footnote in Willow's grand, overarching design. But make no mistake, Jacinda is just the collateral damage. The real victim of this catastrophic aftermath is going to be Michael. You see, getting rid of Jacinda is only step one in a much larger, much more sinister master plan. The bigger question is what Willow does once the chessboard is cleared of her immediate rival and she has secured her new pawn. With Jacinda gone, Willow no longer has to divide her attention or worry about a flank attack. She can focus all of her ruthless, calculating energy entirely on Michael and the impending custody battle. And the most terrifying part of this entire scenario, she will have Serena standing right by her side in the courtroom, completely convinced that they are fighting a righteous, holy war against an abusive, cheating husband who uses his mob ties and immense wealth to crush his victims. Michael won't just be fighting his ex-wife in family court. he will be fighting a public relations nightmare fueled by Serena's misguided, passionate outrage. And what about Serena Baldwin? She is going to lose her innocence and her trust in the absolute worst possible way imaginable. She truly thinks she is helping a traumatized, victimized mother survive a living nightmare, but she is actually serving as a sacrificial pawn in a toxic, deeply disturbed custody war. When Serena finally realizes the horrifying truth that Willow expertly manipulated her, that the tears were completely fake, and that she helped destroy Jacinda's life on entirely false pretenses, it will be far too late to undo the damage. Willow will have already extracted every ounce of value from Serena's credibility. Once Serena is no longer useful to the agenda, Willow will discard her without a second thought, leaving Serena's personal life and her professional standing at deception in absolute smoldering ruins. We may be looking at the beginning of something huge, guys. The truth could be closer than anyone realizes, and the impending destruction is going to be biblical in its scope. Willow is rapidly evolving into a mastermind who operates entirely in the shadows, using the pain, the ignorance, and the empathy of others to execute her own dark, selfish agenda. If she can pull this off, if she can successfully eliminate Jacinda and weaponize Serena against Michael, she will prove once and for all that she is the most dangerous, most calculating player currently residing in Port Charles. She is no longer playing defense. She is actively hunting her enemies. Someone may not be ready for what's coming next, and that someone is undoubtedly Michael. He thinks he is fighting a standard, albeit difficult, legal battle for his children, completely unaware that Willow is assembling a loyal army built on a foundation of lies, manipulation, and manufactured victimhood. When the trap finally springs and the gavel comes down, Michael might find himself standing completely alone, stripped of his allies, his reputation in tatters, and facing a woman who will stop at absolutely nothing to completely obliterate him and take everything he loves. So keep your eyes peeled on Serena's upcoming interactions in the coming episodes. Watch how Willow looks at her when she thinks no one else is paying attention. Watch the subtle tears, the perfectly calculated vulnerability, the trembling voice. This isn't just standard soap drama. It is advanced psychological warfare playing out right in front of us. Jacinda's days in Port Charles are absolutely numbered, but the real war, the war for total control, is only just beginning. Stay sharp, question everything you see, and trust no one's tears, because the fallout from the secret agenda is going to change the landscape of General Hospital forever.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.